Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this Friday, April 7th, in the Locher Room. I'm Alan Locher. Actress Andy Allo and Jesse Atlas, the co writer and director of the sci fi action film Assassin, are here today to talk about their new film, which is currently in theaters, on demand, and digital right now. Jesse is making his directorial debut with Assassin. Please help me welcome to the Locher Room Andy Allo and Jesse Atlas. Hello there.
Hello, hello.
Andy's on mute. Andy's on mute.
Oh my gosh.
There we go.
This is a great epic fail.
Technology fail. Technology. Thank you both so much for being here. I really enjoyed the ride in Assassin.
Oh, thanks so much. And thanks for having us.
You're so welcome. Well, I didn't realize until we were talking backstage that Jesse's a Jersey boy like me.
Local boy made good. I mean, if only the Bergen record or the T-Nex Suburbanite would cover this film, I would know that I've made it.
Oh, that's for sure. I used to work in film doing movie PR for Disney and used to deal with Ginny Rohan, who used to do a lot of entertainment stuff for the record. So funny.
Okay, great.
The record. So Jesse, please tell us in your words, describe Assassin.
Sure. So Assassin is a story about the evolution of drone warfare and the invention of technology that allows a soldier to remotely pilot, instead of a plane or a drone, to remotely pilot another person, to slip into their consciousness, take over their body, all in the service of running assassinations or ambushes and making it look like our army and government was not involved. And our movie centers on a female soldier, Alexa, who is given the opportunity to use this technology to get her husband back. However, in the process, she's going to be spending a lot of time in another body, which is Andy Allo's character of Molly. And and over the course of the film, it's really, a sci-fi thrill ride about not only how to use this technology and the moral questions and the ethical implications that it has, but how to stay sane when you're jumping in and out of the identity of other people and what happens to your mind. So it's conceptual, very strong conceptually on the sci-fi front, and it's also just a psychological minefield, and there's a lot of room for us to play as me as a writer and a director, and with my actors. There's a lot of room and a lot of fun.
It's a scary thought. What we can do in the virtual world today, as we can go in and be somebody in a virtual, but this is actually being in someone's body. It's a frightening to think, it could happen someday.
Absolutely. And of course, you're presented with the opportunity, it's saving soldiers' lives, and it's keeping costs down and this and that. But also you are, manipulating a completely innocent person into committing a violent crime. And, in the service of doing something good, you're doing something terrible. And I think that's something that, made for a rich, dramatic playground, to be in. How far are you going to go for love? How far are you going to go for justice? And what's it going to do to you? And what's it going to cost you along the way?
I love that. Andy, what drew you to the project?
Well, I mean, as an actor, you're always looking for projects that are going to challenge you and, that stretch you a little bit. So when I read the script, instantly, I connected to Molly, who is an artist like myself. But also what really excited me was the action. It's something I haven't really spent a lot of time in, and an area that as an actor, I was like, ooh, yeah, like I want to dip my toe into it. And coming from a sci-fi background with Upload, This definitely was within my wheelhouse, and I felt like Assassin it just takes, it takes it to a whole other level when you're oh wait,
it does.
let me just hold on for this roller coaster. And it never lets up, which is so exciting. When you're reading the script, that's a page turner, so that when you're watching it, it's going to be just as engaging. And so I really connected to all of those things. And lastly too, I think just the challenge and the exciting part of getting to play two characters at once is always really fun.
I love that. And I love, you talked about Upload, and I'll ask you later about that. But I'm curious, you yourself, were you a fan of sci-fi before being cast in Upload and now this? Were you yourself a fan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. Like I used to watch Star Trek with my mom. I grew up watching Star Wars. Little flex, I'm in the Bad Batch. Um, Loki drop there. But getting to just actually be in something where I'm using my body. I love sci-fi. I mean, I grew up playing video games and just all of that, where you're in a world that just you get sucked into, and anything is possible, like anything, and you can just like run and be really imaginative. Is like catnip for me.
I love that. Jesse, where did your love of sci-fi begin?
It's really funny. I just I never was into like hard sci-fi, like space galaxies, save the princess. I like people kind of their jaws drop when they tell them that I was never a Star Trek fan. But I think for me, it just kind of evolved naturally as like I really enjoyed the way that sci-fi offers a way to kind of just move the world an inch to the left or an inch to the right, and in doing so it obviously becomes a director's playground, because even just shifting things an inch, you get to reimagine the entire world and the relationship between people and technology and whatever kind of sci-fi concept you're introducing. But also it proved to be a very easy way to talk about the human condition, to sound like a pompous filmmaker for a second. But it's really fun to kind of step outside of our normal world so that you can look at it from a different perspective. And I really I love just being in the moment with characters as they're discovering things and experiencing things that are not part of this realm as we know it right now, and experiencing it with them. And I think that's just a really fun place for me to play. And it gives me the opportunity to create a lot of tension, a lot of drama, and a lot of manipulation of the world as we know it without changing too much to it.
What films were you drawn to as a younger kid?
Well, I mean, something that has always left such a mark on me is, Back to the Future. And, mostly for, I kind of, the feeling that I got, like, when Marty is playing Earth Angel, and his siblings start disappearing on the picture, and like it's intercut with George McFly in the car with his mom, or Biff in the car with his mom, and he's trying to save his mom from Biff, and there's all this character stuff going on, and it's influencing the concept, like like every second he's fading from the picture, and then all of a sudden his dad does something outside, and then he's fine, and the picture, his siblings reappear on the picture, and he stands up and he's playing guitar, and it's just like, I just love the way that I don't think that I knew it at the time. It was just a feeling, I was like 8. I didn't know, like, oh wow, character and concept. I just knew that it created this great feeling for me. And I think that what I've been searching for in what I've been trying to create is just finding those moments where it all comes together with character and concept like that. And that is, that's what's so attractive to me about sci-fi. And we were able to create a few of those moments in Assassin, and that's what I'm most proud of.
Oh, I love that. And Back to the Future is coming to Broadway, I believe.
Wait, is it?
I did not know that.
Yeah, I believe it went to London first. So I would be really curious to see how they pull that off. Pull that off on stage, no less. Yeah, Andy, was there any? Say it again.
I was gonna say, apparently, like, I haven't seen the Harry Potter on Broadway yet, but everyone is like blown away by how they do the magic. So
I agree, and you just reminded me. I really want to see that. I've wanted to see it since it's open. Any interesting story about the audition process for you for this film in particular?
It was one of those amazing, a few moments you get as an actor where you don't have to audition. Yes. But which actually I might venture to say is harder, because you're meeting a director and you really have to like connect, it's like a moment where you're like, okay, do we get along? Or are you cool, or are you going to be crazy on set? As an actor, like, can I trust you with this character that I've birthed? Whereas, through the audition process, yes, it's like, okay, you're just doing the lines. You're doing, you're showing what you can do with the character versus who you are as a person. And I know, and Jesse speaks to this a lot. But I got the script, and in reading it right away, I connected to it and just got sucked into the whole world. And then also getting to see the short film version of it, which just blew me away what they were able to accomplish and do in such a short time. That's the tough thing with shorts. It's like, how do you get everyone's attention yet keep them wanting more? And I was like, oh my God, like what is this? And so to be a part of now the feature length version of it was even more exciting. And so then we hopped on a Zoom, and luckily the conversation, like, I'll let you take it from here, Jesse, of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think, and like Andy said, like, an audition can do so much, but I think that, first of all, I was very comfortable with knowing what Andy was like on screen and what her presence was like and what her vibe was like from Upload, and being familiar with that show. But then in addition, I think that, what was most important for me was, having a chance to connect with the person who is the artist and the actor. And, of course, making great choices as an actor is super important. Like I said, I already had confidence in that, but I think that an interesting actor is an interesting person. And I wanted to make sure that, that we connected on a human level. It was very easy to see that, like, Andy, from her interviews, from her music, from the things that she has on her website and the things that she cares about, it's very clear that, Andy has a very specific perspective on the world and who she is as a person and who she is as an artist. And I think that, all of those things, when we were able to connect in person, were really important for me, because I knew that, how intense this process was going to be of, shouldering the weight of carrying two characters in one body. And, the emotional journey that Andy was going to go on in the film, and the love aspect of it and the action aspect of it, and being able to sell all these different things. And I guess I just think about, finding a collaborator in a bit of a different way than just saying, like, hey, can you read these lines, and especially of course, like, with somebody like Andy who, already has a body of work that you can go to and see. That's
right. Yeah. That helps.
Of course, that makes a big difference. But I knew that I was looking for a very specific personality to collaborate with on this film. And that was somebody who was going to bring a lot of their own perspective on technology, on spirituality, who was going to be able to have fun and just had a great energy. And that was, that could talk to me not only about the character, but about the film and what we were trying to achieve in the film, and really be able to explore it from all sides.
That's awesome. And I love how you described her having to carry the weight of two people, playing in her body.
Yeah. And I mean, that was a challenge that excited me. But it was also one that you have to, you have to not hold it with kid gloves, but in a way you have to nurture it. It's not something that you can kind of hit the audiences over the head with those transitions. It has to be nuanced and finding those little things that really say, okay, who is this, Molly or is this Alexa? And those are really great conversations that I got to have with Jesse, but also Nomzamo too, of us finding like, how do we play off of each other? And there's this great moment I love where I'm like such an actor. I'm Molly still. You're in. Molly's in the car, but is it Alexa? And like she looks up and sees her reflection, and it's this like moment where you're having to decipher, and obviously with such the great editing that was done, that really adds to it. Or even in the mansion, there's that moment where there's a switch between the characters that's so that was just
a scary moment.
Yeah, right. And knowing how do I move in this body? It's not mine, yet you can't forget that it's still that person's body. It's not like you transform and now like their voice drops and now here I am as Alexa. It's like, there's still them, but it's those little subtle things. And that was where the challenge was, but it was an exciting one for me.
So interesting too, thinking about how you play that. Jesse, Andy mentioned, this is an adaptation of your short film, Let Them Die Like Lovers. Tell us, when you put that together and what drove you, or, what inspired you to make it a full-length feature.
Oh, sure. Well, look, I mean, for every aspiring director, a short film is a perfect calling card, if you do it right. And, based off of the success. And
I love that description, a calling card. It's like, you're just making a short film. You're making a resume.
Yeah. I mean, basically, it is a proof of concept of what you're capable of. And, before this film and this adventure, I'd made a previous film, which also did really well. It was called Record Play, and had the same trajectory. We made the short film and were able to set it up as a feature adaptation. It didn't get made through some, boring industry politics, blah, blah, blah. But, we got so close with it that I was able to say, you know what, let me try this one more time. And this way I'm going to, and this time I'm going to do things a little bit different, not so much on the creative side, but on the business side in terms of how I'm going to approach, ownership of this going forward and what I want it to become. But I'm glad that we gave birth to it as a short film first. It attracted all the right attention, from producers and financiers, when I was able to help convince actors and people who were not so familiar with me as a person, and especially as a person who is making, their first feature, which of course is a big hurdle of perception and one of the hardest things to actually do. It only gets easier from here, but the first one is really, a behemoth to get over that line, to make your first film. And having a short, that says, hey, here's this script, but also here's this short film. And this short film is exactly, it contains exactly the way, the visuals, the drama, the character arc, the emotion, the psychology, everything that I want you to pay attention to in this feature, it's right here, and that really helped sell things. So it was as much as I say that I love making things for the sake of making things. This was really this was a business strategy. And I think making a short, that reflects the feature that you want to make is a great business strategy, and it worked for me, and I think it can work for a lot of people.
Very interesting. Andy mentioned having watched it. Did most of the actors on the full-length feature watch the short? Was it?
I guess right off the top of my head, I'm not sure who did and who didn't. I know that one of our lead players in Assassin, Mustafa Shakir, was in the short film, so he was quite familiar with it already. I know that Dominic, that it was a big part of Dominic and I's first conversation. I don't really remember with Nomzamo and Bruce. Totally blanking on that.
That's okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Andy, having, worked in this business for a while, knowing that this was Jesse's directorial debut, what was he like as a director? Close your ears if you don't want to hear.
Get ready. Here we go. No, I think something I look for in all directors is how they approach the project and in the way that they communicate their vision. And you could tell instantly that Jesse had such integrity with the story and with the characters, and especially with, that's the great thing about working with a director writer is that the story in and out. So if there's any moment that you're like, I'm not really sure about this, like, did I miss something? Like, we got to have conversations on that level, with Aaron as well too, who co-wrote it. And so being able to collaborate on that level, that's something that was really refreshing. And sometimes, you don't know when it comes to a feature film debut. I get it, like I can imagine maybe there's a lot of pressure, but Jesse, played it off. He seemed very cool. And I think for me, we got to have fun, even on the days that there's stress, which is natural. You're shooting a film, there's high stakes, and it's a lot of pressure. And I think being a director, and I have had the opportunity to do a little directing and shadow directors recently, and that's really blown my mind of what sits on the shoulders of directors and gave me even more respect for what they do. And so really now I get to appreciate the way that he approached the project, and having those moments where it's like you could tell he really cared. He cared, and that speaks volumes when you're on a set. And you can tell that when you're watching it as well.
Great way to describe it. Jesse, she talks about the way you approached it. I'm curious, in your words, how did you approach this as your directorial debut? What did you find challenging? What were you looking forward to most about doing your first feature?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm generally a humble person, but I would say I've always known that this was the path for me. I always knew that I could do this. I always knew that I had the creative qualities, the leadership qualities, and honestly, it's just it's something that I look forward to so much that when it gets to happen, when you are on set, when I am on set, it's just soaking up all the moments and being very present for everything, so that you can actually see in real time and make a million choices a day, but staying very open, connected to the vision that you're bringing to the table. So really staying grounded, but then also staying so calm and grounded that when everything is flying at you and people are bringing choices to your attention, and great things happen, that you would have never thought of. Oh, great, the light is in this room is different the last time that I was here. So my DP is saying, let's put the camera here, or Andy's saying, hey, what if I play this moment like this? And you have to be open enough to those situations, but you also have to, with 1,000 things coming at you, you can't blow over.
Imagine.
You have to be very rooted. So it's just such a wonderful experience. And I guess from making the shorts also, I just, the visual language was there. It wasn't like we were trying things out like, ooh, how should we shoot this and this and that? And, and I also have a decade of experience as an editor. So I knew exactly what I wanted out of the shot list. So we were shooting, we weren't just shooting like blanket coverage and wasting time with coverage, everything was very, very specific. And what else can I say? I think that, you're never gonna hear any filmmaker say, oh, I had enough time.
There's never enough time.
There's always going to be, oh, I wish I had more time.
Right.
Always going to want
and money, because you need the money for the time as well, right?
Right. There's always things that you want to do, but I think the greatest part of it is, and the greatest testament to it, is that no matter what happens on set, no matter how crazy things get in the heat of the moment, with you're running out of time, or you're stressed, or this isn't looking exactly quite right. When you and your collaborators are all on the same page about the themes that you're working with and what you're trying to convey in the story that you're trying to tell, there's always a solution. And some of my favorite moments on set is where things, not that they went wrong, but where they just wound up being a little bit different than what I expected. Oh, this prop looks a little bit different on camera than I thought that it would, or yeah, did I really choose the right color for this outfit, against this or whatever? And just, being able to pull aside my department heads and my collaborators and saying, hey, what do you think about this? Does it really reflect what we're doing here? And they always had a solution, because, the proof was in the prep, and we all, prepped in such a way that everybody was so aligned that nothing fazed us on set. We could pivot really easily, and things could look a little bit different than I thought in my mind. And scenes could unfold that way. And, maybe if we ran out of time and I said, we can cut these few lines because I'm the writer and I know that we'll survive without them. But it was just, it's like one of the most present experiences that you can have.
Well, you say preparation. It's so true in anything we do, things flow better, work smoother if we're all, whatever role, acting, doing the show, the things, if you're just prepared, hopefully the things should, go a lot smoother. Being prepared, I think, is like top of list. You mentioned you sort of always knew, like childhood, did you always know you would be in this business? Directing was something you...
No, I mean, childhood, I don't know what I wanted to do when I was a kid. And then I was in theater for a while, and then I was like working like off Broadway theater, like Lower East Side, Ludlow Street was part of that whole scene for a little while. And
oh, wow.
And then, when I moved into film, my first film was a documentary. So, I've had an interesting path. But no, it wasn't like, I knew it's always one of the things that I wanted to do, but it wasn't like this kind of like singular Spielbergian J.J. Abrams type of thing where it's like, this is my destiny. I just knew at some point this is going to happen and it's going to be great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Andy, for you, I know you started out in music. How did acting come into your world?
Well, what's interesting is I was always doing both simultaneously. Music was just the first thing that took off. So growing up, I was doing plays. I mean, I was singing and writing songs. I did a bunch of indies in commercials in Sacramento and San Francisco growing up there. And while I was doing music. So when I moved to LA, and I was just always like trying to, doing the grind of like auditions and But music was the first thing that just kind of like, all right, met Prince and yada yada yada. Rest
Oh
is
yeah, I want to talk about that in a minute too.
Oh, Sam, that was right before that.
I
Can you
love how you just sort of just
It's like, and then, after a few years of doing that, really missed acting and got back to LA and had to start from scratch, really, of building like, casting directors trust in me, directors trust in me and I took a couple years to train and to really honor the craft and slowly but surely, you just start working and it, to your point, both your points about preparation, just like you prepare so when you do get that call and get that opportunity for someone to trust you, they trust your work because you've done it. But yeah.
That's so funny. I love to Prince. Jesse, before we go off the film, you directed Bruce Willis in his last major release in this film. Talk about working with Bruce and how does it sort of feel knowing that?
Yeah, I mean, look, that is very bittersweet, and something that's come up as Andy and I have been, talking about the film is just how sucky it is that we can't just sit down with Bruce and just watch the film with him and enjoy what we all did together. But I mean, it was amazing to have a legend, the god, like one of the godfathers of the genre, say, yeah, this script and this story is totally worthy of me and my presence on screen. And when you have a tool in your toolbox like Bruce Willis, it's something where once Bruce signed on, like lines of dialogue were just like crossed off the page because it's like, oh, we don't need that. Like Bruce Willis is just it's gonna be Bruce Willis's face and looking, and that glower
that conveys everything.
Yeah, and so that was just so great to have, and it was so, I had some questions about, when the opportunity to talk to him and talk to his team, came around of like, oh, this is Nomzamo and Andy's film, like, this is a supporting player in this film, like, would he even be interested in this? And I think that he really responded to the idea that he was going to, that his presence was there to kind of like godfather in, these, up and coming and younger artists such as myself and Andy and Mustafa and Nomzamo and he's aware of his weight and his presence and what that can do for a movie. And I think that he generously gave us himself for that reason, or one of those reasons, Yeah.
I love that. That's incredible. Do you remember, getting that call that, Bruce Willis said yes to your film?
Well, I do remember the call. Now, I think Andy might agree with me. There's the call, and then there's the contract that it's right.
Like, yeah, like, okay, this is actually happening.
Right,
and then the third part of it is then in person when
showing up.
Exactly.
No, wait, this is real. I can't be weird.
Yeah, I think we've all gone through it in this business so many times where it's like, I guess I had that experience, with my daughter and with my partner, who were like, okay, so do we get to celebrate? And I'm like, nope, not yet. And then like another thing happens and they're like, do we get to celebrate now? I'm like, not yet. And then like, it got to the point where, people were like, this is getting ridiculous, Jesse, like, when do we get to celebrate? And I'm like, I don't think I get to celebrate until he walks on set, because like, you're just, it's not that I didn't believe anything from his side, but it's such a business. Such a business of talk.
Yes.
And you're like, is this real? Is this real? I don't know. And
I really do understand.
Thankfully it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I really do understand. Andy, knowing how Jesse just described Bruce's role sort of in the movie, how does that, how did it mean, what did it mean to you to have him as a part of this?
Oh, I mean, it was huge. Like, I never in a million years thought I would be in a film alongside Bruce Willis. Like, what? Like,
Mhm.
is this real? Does this actually is happening? Like, legend, and so it was just such an honor. And to me, that's when you're in the presence of greatness like that, it only elevates your work, and it forces you to show up better. So, and so, like Jesse said, it's like, this man's not gonna be saying a whole bunch, like his whole face is the monologue. Like, with one look, you know what has been said. And so I think for me, like, that's what I took away from it, was like, okay, how can I get that when you walk into a room and people are like, okay, greatness just arrived, like, and this man doesn't have to do much. I feel like as an actor, like, that is the sweet spot, when you don't have to do much, but you say everything you need to. And that spoke volumes to me. I mean, I was such a weirdo. I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't even know how to act around this man. I was like, I just was like,
Yeah, there are some people who walk into a room,
yeah,
and that you're sort of, that's a legend.
yes,
You
yeah. And I think,
there are some. I mean, there's actors, and then there's just, like, there are some who really, in the world, they are a legend and even in your mind, and to the audience, they are a complete.
yeah. And I think for me, it's just like, to be a part of his legacy is
Mhm.
like, wow,
Mhm.
that's just a dream. That's truly only something you hope for as an artist, is to, and having obviously, worked with artists that are other legends as well, like, it means the world for me, and it continues to elevate me as an artist in the way that I show up and do my work.
Well, let's talk about that artist.
I made a mistake. I was like, I'm walking right into this.
You did walk right into it on that one. I mean, you released your first of 3 albums in 2009 and joined Prince's band, The New Power Generation. And if I have it right, you worked with him directly on your second album.
Yes.
I
Yep.
mean, well, if you were uncomfortable if that poor choice of words around Bruce, I can't imagine as a musician and artist what you were like around Prince that
You know what?
first time.
Honestly, though, it was the opposite. Like,
Interesting.
I didn't grow up listening to Prince's music. I grew up watching Bruce's movies. Um, so when I got to meet Prince, I was like, okay, yeah, I know of you. I know what you've done for music. I mean, I can respect and, give that, legendary status, but I'm not like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Because I was like, I grew up, I mean, was listening to other artists. And I knew of him. I knew what he had done for music, stuff like that. So I think that I think single-handedly probably gave me the upper hand, and set me in a position to where I was invited to join the band, because I wasn't some, crazy fangirling or weirdo, like I was when I saw Bruce and when he walked in the room. So I think
I
that
hope
really
that's
helped.
on tape somewhere.
I know, right? I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I think that really helped, of just like, okay, where I'm meeting you artist to artist with the utmost respect, but
Mhm.
the more so, what can I
Well,
learn from you? And that's what I really, as a creative, when I go into anything, is how am I learning, and I learn with I learn from those that are around me.
Can you articulate some of what you learned from him, from Prince?
Oh my gosh. I'm like, where do I even begin? The caliber of your work. He was someone who he lived, he breathed, ate, slept music and creating. And he had it at the highest regard. So when he showed up, you knew that he had prepared and he had the best like preparation. You know, he had prepared so much in his life that there was a point where he just was always prepared. And that's a dream, right? As an artist, where you, or even in any craft, that you do that much work to where like in an instant, you're like, oh yeah, here's just this beautiful solo that's emanating from me, or I'm going to write a song and, the next day he has like this incredible song that you're like, how did this happen? So to witness artistry at that level, but I think one of the biggest things I saw and learned from him is there's two things. One is space. He really taught me to appreciate the space in things and letting things breathe. And I think that you can relate that to a film, to dialogue as an actor, not rushing things. Sometimes you get anxious and you're like, I need to speak. I should say it now. And you're like, just breathe. It's okay. Letting something breathe. And the second thing is watching him as a band leader and his ability to know when it was someone's moment to shine, and even also letting something breathe to where it's like, hey, let's, and being that conductor. And I also attribute that to being on a film set and being a director, because you really are a conductor. You're working with the crew, you're working with actors, you're working with, a lot of departments and a lot of people who are making something happen, and you have to conduct. You have to let, all right, this is your time solo. This is your time. All right, this is not your time. This is your time to relax. You're doing too much. And like, and it's a dance. And I think that was something really beautiful that stuck with me of finding people's strengths, knowing how to lift them up and support them. And Jesse really embodied that. I felt very cared and nurtured for as an actor.
It's wonderful. Jesse, speaking of the conductor, how many did you conduct on this film? How many people?
Ooh.
How many did I conduct? Well, I mean, from the actors, it was our lead gang was pretty small and intimate, even though the scope of the film was pretty big, because we conducted Alexa's journey through a ton of different bodies over the course of the film. But yeah, it really is, the more that
your crew and hair, you were talking earlier, the departments.
You were
conducting all of that.
Maybe some days we were 80, 90, 100, which is not that big, compared to other
a lot of people to be responsible for.
Oh, yeah. Like, hold on, Jesse.
Yeah. But, look, I mean, it's all in the structure of, I'm communicating to one person who's communicating to other people and this and that. But I think it really is just like, it's such a fun and crazy controlled circus. And the challenge is to be in, both simultaneously in control of things, but also completely open to things. And I'm liking this conductor and this band leader analogy that I've heard.
You're gonna need whatever the orchestra leader has.
No, but it really is like, this part's quiet and this part's loud and this part's taking center stage, and like relax over there for a second, and just how you're blending all these elements that you have, and how you're and not only when you're on set, but in the edit room as well, which is just such a major part of things too. crafting and recrafting and reshaping.
Well, and you come from that world, so that only helps that. But you also said, I think one of the most important things I can imagine for a director is communication. Being able to communicate your vision to everybody, and what, has got to be one of the most important elements.
Oh, I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the essence of the role, right? But I think that for me, it's much more important to be an open collaborator than being didactic. And I think that, both ways can work. I've seen, directors who are like, every inch of every single frame, and, from production design to lighting to everything, comes from their mind. And I think, and, those are some of my favorite filmmakers, so I've got no problem with it. But for me, myself, I think the most exciting thing for me is when, I know that I've laid the groundwork for somebody else to come in and make a creative and meaningful contribution and show me something that I never expected to see or hear or consider, and have it work so perfectly for that moment of that scene, for that character, whether it's an acting choice or a lighting choice, or just, a different shade of color on a costume than I imagined. It's so lovely to be part of that, especially because when you're bringing it from a script, like a script is just, it's the worst. It's the worst art form, you just can't, you can't put into this sentence that, like, that there's, that the light, the color of the light, and, the look on Andy's face, and, where the camera is. I mean, you can, but your script will be 500 pages and be terrible to read. But, ultimately,
and very boring with all those little.
Yeah. Ultimately, I mean, it's a very boring blueprint. And, the comment that you get a lot on, as notes on screenplays or TV episodes or whatever is like, oh, I don't know if I felt enough emotion in it. And it's like, well, I don't know how you can. It's just words on a page. Like, there's so many other living and breathing elements that I don't know how to put on this page for you. And so, sometimes you get into that mindset yourself of like, oh, right, it was just these things on the page, and just seeing it come to life with, again, like, just even just the colors, or like where the camera is and who the person is. It's such magic, and it's such alchemy. But I don't want to do it all by myself. I want to be fed by a group of people who are throwing just as much ideas at it as I am. That's when I'm happiest.
I'm not an actor, Jesse, but you make me want to work for you as an actor.
Well, if you were an actor, you'd be working with me, not for me.
Yeah, exactly. The way you describe it, really, that's incredible. Talk to me. Who has had the biggest impact on your directorial journey? Not necessarily on this film, but somebody who gave you the best piece of advice, or who you learned from, somebody who you hold in high regard in that respect.
Well, I mean, there's definitely a lot of filmmakers that I love, and from genre to drama to comedy, and I could pick out an infinite list of moments. But I think it's it's moments that make, I'm chasing like the feeling that a particular film gave me, or a particular performance gave me. And I think in terms of advice, I don't know. I don't really have any mentors.
Okay.
I wish that I did have more mentors sometimes, but I just don't. It just didn't happen that way.
Not everybody does, but you don't seem like you need them either, so that's a good thing as well. What about you, Andy? Did you have mentors?
I mean, yeah, I think we've spoken about one that I've had, and I think every director that I work with, I find in them a mentor, and because kind of what I shared of like every project I go into, I I go into with a learning mind, and how can I learn something, and discover something new about myself as an artist. So I would consider Jesse a mentor, and especially the way that he envisions and talks about using short films to pioneer and use that as a springboard. That's not something I've heard before, and in the way that he describes it. And being the thing that says, like, no, I can do this. So I think it's that's something I carry with me. Is like, I can find a mentor in every person that I work with. And
I love how you view all of your experiences, because I do think not enough of people in whatever field they are take the opportunity to absorb that experience. Like you're watching how Jesse interacts, or how he's leading the company, or all the other directors. I just think we have an opportunity when you're given permission to be in that space that you really want to be in, for sure. Like working on a set, it's a great way to learn. It's a great way to learn what the other people in that whole company are doing too, that you might need somewhere down the line.
Yeah. And I will say, I mean, I didn't think of that on my own. I think that's part of something I got from Prince is, after every concert, we would watch it afterwards. And which sometimes was painful. Sometimes was wonderful, and other times was painful because you knew you made a mistake and you were going to get there at some point, and we were going to talk about it. But what that taught me is, like, okay, how do I, instead of seeing a mistake or seeing my work as like, I don't want to see whatever, it's like, no, what can I learn from this? Like, and is there a moment that I can celebrate? Is there someone I can celebrate? Is there, oh, you know what, I really loved what that person did then. I'm gonna take that, like, and and make it my own. And it was just that subtle shift that's completely changed the way I show up in my work. Yeah. I actually have a question for Jesse.
Go ahead. I love it.
Andy
You're on the
podcast.
spot, Jesse. You're on the spot.
I've been thinking about this because you talked about, like, the script and this is me. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get to ask a mentor question here, but live. You're like, oh my God. But, like, there's the saying, there's three versions of a film. There's a script, there's what you shoot, and then there's what you edit. And so you get three films. And I'm just curious, which of those do you feel are, like, and I'm curious, I know I'm putting you in a tough spot, but which of those do you feel like truly captured the vision of what you wanted to say?
Oh, wow. Well, I think, I mean, how could I not say the edit, because, but I think, like, you have to pave the way, right? Like, you have to pay, you get to rewrite it in the shoot, because you're moving into the shoot with the strength of the belief that your core principles and the core themes and the core drama and the core arc of the characters are all there, right? So there's enough of a base layer for you to explore and play with there, right? But then even more so in the edit, because I thought that that is really where I got to see, how our choices paid off. And I was really able to see, the ways in which I thought that the movie might have leaned. Like, I always had a question of, like, I wonder who's going to dominate this story more. Is it going to be Alexa? Is it going to be Alexa in Molly's body? And just seeing the way that like, we worked so diligently on both sides of that story that they were able to hold equal weight. That was, like, an amazing, experience for me. But then also, I think, being open to, the writing process that takes place in the edit. And, I got to thank my brilliant editor, Philip Harrison, who really steered the ship in terms of, there's some great twists, and I really, really wanted to play them as like super serious genre, like, oh my God, here comes the twist. And it's, and let's rearrange the world, from like a very dramatic perspective. And Philip, really, really encouraged me. I wish I could talk about it in a more spoiler-free way, but I can't. But he really encouraged me to let the emotion, drive those pivotal moments. And really, really, we had ultimately we had the choice with the music and the pacing and the editing, and some of the coverage, some of the shots that were super intense, and others were like a bit more lingering, and paid more attention to the emotion. And Philip just kept pushing for the emotion to shine through. And I think it was such a smart choice. And even though it took me a few days to get my head around it, but again, just knowing that you have such a solid foundation that you can do these like flourishes here or there. I love the amount of play that we were able to do in the edit room. I mean, and I was able to take scenes
collaborated.
Yeah, but also like I thought there were some scenes that you see in the middle of the movie that I thought were the beginning of the movie, and there's some things that from the end that move to the middle, and so on and so forth. And it's just this infinite Tetris puzzle, and it's just so much fun once you have all those things to play with.
Well, that's fascinating. Yeah. I would love to watch sort of that process, like that you're moving.
Oh, it's really boring. Yeah. It's me and Philip sitting in a room, like
I'm right, but the conversation and the decisions to move things is a fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you have a book, if you're just ripping pages out of a book and rearranging them, it's like
I love that. I love that. But it also, but that's you, and that speaks to just how collaborative you are, and the integrity that you have about the project, and the vision is like being willing to knowing when to say, yeah, I like that. That's the better idea. Let's do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I think it would be a big mistake if I went into the projects thinking that I knew everything and I knew the best way in my head that it's going to be on screen and in the final edit, and being totally inflexible. I don't see how that would have given us the product that we have now.
Yeah.
Do you have a next project lined up?
I do, but I can't really talk about them yet. But I am also, but I will say that I'm really excited to, I feel like I'm building a regular team of collaborators, and I'm excited to work with the same, collaborative family the same way some of my favorite filmmakers do. And there are more stories to tell in this particular world, and I'm hoping that we get to tell them.
What does that mean?
Andy's like, sign me up now. Where's that contract? Where is that contract? Andy, before talk about Nora.
What about her?
What do you like about playing her?
Oh my gosh, Nora just has the biggest heart, and that was one of the things that drew me to that character so much is how much heart she has, and she truly wants and sees the best for and in everyone. So I have a lot of fun playing that character. She lets me dive into a bit of my quirkiness a little bit more. I love comedy, so getting to play out my comedy chops is really fun. And she's just so weird, and I love it. But she has a lot of heart, and I think that's at the core of it. That really is the biggest thing that drew me to her, and what I love about playing her.
That's awesome. Thank you both so much. It's a pleasure, truly, to speak to you both. And go Jersey! Congratulations! Congratulations on the film. It was a really great ride.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a ride to make, and really fun for us too.
And that makes it fun for us watching. You can see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you feel that coming from the people you're watching on screen, it's a whole different experience for sure. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
Wow, that was right at the hour mark. Thanks.
There you go.
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks, everybody, for watching today. Thank you to Andy Allo and Jesse Atlas for stopping by to talk about their new film, Assassin. Please go check it out. The movie is in theaters, on demand, and digital right now. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And if you prefer to stream The Locker Room on an audio platform, just search The Locker Room. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I'll see you next week.